Recognizing the member for Caribou North.
Thank you very much, Honourable Speaker. It is an honour and a privilege to be able to join the debate today on Bill 10, the Budget Measures Implementation Act. For many of us, the last 2 weeks we've been out in our constituency week, and we've had the opportunity to talk to many people. And it's always incredibly important for each of us as legislators and as representatives to hear clearly what our constituents are saying and to bring that here to this fine chamber and ensure that their voices, the voices of, in my case, the residents of Caribou North, are heard. And in response to the budget, some of the comments that we've heard, there was, some challenges, of course, that we hear in our communities, but, as I begin, I'm going to break it into 2 points, some of the initial responses of what people were saying and where I think we could get to. Because I want to lead my comments with where I think that there's some tremendous opportunities. And we still have time before March 31st. We still have time to reflect and perhaps for example, perhaps the Minister of Transportation is here. Perhaps that Quesnel River Bridge and rail overpass could find its way into the budget yet. Perhaps there are projects that are so critically important in our communities could find our ways clearly very much needed in our communities. But first, look. At first glance, this budget really has been an uninspiring with record high spending and record low results. And after nearly 6 years of worsening results, Budget 2023 offers nothing new but the same NDP rhetoric and empty promises. Budget 2023 is the 7th NDP budget, and after 6 years we see the same terrible results that have left the province in multiple crises. Life has never been more unaffordable, with the highest gas prices and housing costs in North America. I know people in the Caribou going to the grocery stores right now are really, really struggling. People are literally dying because they cannot access basic health care, and emergency rooms are shutting down in every corner of the province. And I committed to several people in my constituency of Caribou North who have shared recently their very difficult stories of the experiences that they're facing right now in our community of Caribou North and GR Baker Hospital. And they wanted me to raise it here in this legislature. They wanted me to share their stories of the struggles that they're seeing in our healthcare sector and how there's a disconnect in what the budget announced and what is actually happening as results in our community. And we've got to do better. We've got to figure out a better way of making those very important changes in our communities, because, boy, in our communities right now, people are really, really struggling. Like every community, Caribou North is very much struggling with violent, prolific offenders, and we're seeing vicious random attacks and assaults, and we see this, catch and release justice system, and people are frustrated, they're angry, and they're also saddened. And they're saddened, Honourable Speaker, because there just isn't the services. I sat with the family for 3 hours, and boy, my heart goes out to them. And they shared with me a very personal story of a loved one that is struggling right now and was flown down here to Victoria to the hospital and had struggled with addiction for many, many years. And the family has struggled as well to support their loved one. And they find their way back into our community, and I sat down and talked with them and looked at options. What are the options in our communities where we can possibly provide support and treatment for their loved one in the north? It's an Indigenous family. And as we walk through these very difficult conversations, and as we walk through the emotions of it, there's just no place in in our communities. There's no place for treatment. There's no place for the necessary supports that our families need. And so when we look at the budget and we look at the steps that the government's taking, for communities like ours, I use the word, we feel abandoned. And it's because we can't find the supports that our people are expecting. And we know we can do better. We know in our communities there have been some very strong plans that have been put forward on how we could address treatment for addictions and mental health supports in our communities, and we just want to see those plans get approved through government and that funding finds their way so that we can help people on the ground. Look, last week in Prince George, there was the Indigenous Health Conference where a lot of discussions were shared about how we can improve upon things. And I want to bring that story into this House because there are working groups across this province who are doing extraordinary work on how we can get results on the real serious concerns that we have in our communities. Because look, I'm going to turn now to where a way forward can be. Because one of the great privileges we have as representatives is to have the opportunity to talk and listen to so many incredible people doing great work across this province. Recently, the Vancouver Board of Trade put forward a very important document around solving BC's workforce challenges, because whether it's healthcare, whether it's our business community, whether it is our skilled trades, whatever the sector is, understanding what the workforce challenge needs are in British Columbia is a critical component on how we are going to solve important issues. And the Greater Vancouver Board of Trade's report talked about the immediate action that we should be looking at. First of all, as they've outlined, the provincial government projects there'll be over 1 million job openings in British Columbia over the next 10 years. And we all know in a world of rapidly developing technologies, shifting employee expectations and demographics, and steep international competition for talent, BC must attract and retain the talent it needs to meet the staggering number of job openings across all sectors. And they talked about, businesses continue to face labor market challenges. In September 2022, the data from the Canadian Chamber of Commerce's Business Data Lab revealed that difficulty recruiting 40% and retaining 34% talent continued to impact Vancouver businesses across every sector, with a slight uptick when compared with the previous quarter. And that in health and the social science assistant sector, the number of vacant positions in Canada rose 90% during the first quarter of 2022. These are very real challenges that I know that British Columbia isn't alone in this challenge. I know that. I know that jurisdictions across the globe are facing these very real workforce challenges. But what I haven't seen and what I was hoping for and expecting for in this budget is how in British Columbia, with the world-class post-secondary system that we have, how are we seeing the type of necessary investments that we need so that not only can we lead in competitiveness, that we answer the real challenges of productivity right now? What does that look like for a workforce, and as we develop that? And how does industry, academia, and the workforce combine to make sure we're solving the real solutions that I identified, that I heard in my community a little bit earlier? So one of the things that the Greater Vancouver Board of Trade have identified, that in the short term, labor market challenges continue to negatively impact businesses, and it's time to make sure that we're maximizing labor force participation here in BC as soon as possible. By making sure the labor market is equitable and accessible to all, we can see BC become a place where the skills and talents of all residents are fully utilized and everyone feels welcome and included in the workplace. So when we look at this budget, and in today when we talk about the pressing labor market challenges that we have, how are we accelerating the inclusion of newcomers, people with disabilities, Indigenous people, and other groups who've been historically marginalized or barred from fully participating in civic life? Where are those elements within this budget to make sure that that is happening? Because this is a critical aspect of how we can include diverse workplaces and lead to more productivity and innovation by making full use of individuals' strengths and talents and benefit all of us in British Columbia. Workers play an indispensable role in supporting the day-to-day activities that underpin the operation of the economy, the social economy, the caring economy, all aspects. And the impacts of these labor challenges are far-reaching, resulting in detrimental impact on not only businesses' ability to maintain and expand sales and production, but the broader economy and the caring economy as well. And these labor challenges are nothing new, so why are they the most acute right now? The simple answer is that contemporary labor challenges are having real and pronounced consequences on businesses and the economy amidst an already challenging post-pandemic inflationary economic reality. So when we have a labor market mismatch, which we currently have right now, posing multifaceted challenges to businesses in staffing, sales costs, client experiences, increased red tape, increased taxes, increased legislation that makes it more difficult for businesses to operate here in British Columbia. And according to the BDC, 45% of businesses faced higher labor costs, while 44% experienced a decline in sales, and 43% had to pay higher operating costs as a result of hiring challenges, and that labor shortages also fuel employee burnout and turnover, jeopardizing morale, well-being, and business productivity. You know, it's interesting, as we get ready for the estimates process, and of course we read countless articles and documents and research, and, we certainly appreciate all of the support we get from our very capable staff. I had the opportunity to review the recent labor market outlook. And why this labor market outlook is so critical for the conversation of how we support and meet the challenge of the workforce labor challenge that we currently experience is because the provincial government and their team, and certainly appreciate all the work that they're doing, work to produce this labor market outlook. And that labor market outlook is the document and the tools that's used to develop the Future Ready Skills process, which is how the post-secondary sector is, how it's prioritized, and the different programs that the government makes choice of the 25% on how they invest on it. And it's critically important because we know in our regional communities and where those gaps are and how critically important it is that we're aligning our post-secondary education system with the needs in our communities and how we can support the development. So on page 44 of the recent edition of the British Columbia Labour Market Outlook, I want to talk about the caribou. And I want members in this legislature to, for a moment, contemplate what I'm about to read and translate that into the experience we're feeling right now on the ground in our community. Again, for members of this legislature, the Cariboo North is, we have been traditionally one of the most forest-dependent communities and integrated forest economies in North America. We have some outstanding companies, and we have, I talk about the employees and the strengths of the manufacturing sector in my riding, and how skilled and capable the men and women who work in that industry are. And they, for many, have done it for multi-generations, like my family. the logging contractors, the people that are working directly on the ground to make sure that the natural resource economy is vibrant in British Columbia, and whether it's forestry, the other really strong opportunity in our areas around mining. Huge potential on mining, and I want to talk about forestry and mining for a second. Because when we talk about the housing crisis, I want to remind all members of this House the importance of the, lumber, the value-added sector in building homes for today and for future homes for communities across this province, and how critically important that sector is and has been and will be in the future. And I want to talk about the mining sector and how critically important that sector is as we build out into the future and meet the needs of a greener economy for all. It's critically important. These jobs are critically important. So we go to page 44 of the 2022 edition, this most recent of the British Columbia Labour Market Outlook, and here's what the outlook says is on the horizon for the Cariboo. We're lining up all of our funding around this outlook. The Cariboo region is in the centre of British Columbia. It has many logging towns in mostly rural areas with large forests. Besides the urban centre of Prince George, the area is known for the logging hubs of Williams Lake and Quesnel. The region is the third largest in geographical size, but less than 5% of BC's residents live and work here. The region's largest industries are otherwise retail trade, excluding cars, online shopping, and personal care, hospitals, food services, and drinking places, elementary and secondary schools, wood product manufacturing, ambulatory healthcare services, and forestry, logging, and support activities. Wait for it. In the next 10 years, the Cariboo region expected to have 18,500 job openings. About 93% of these jobs will replace the existing workers, and 7% will come through economic growth. Employment demand is expected to grow at an average of 0.2% annually during the next 10 years. During the next 10 years, the industries with the fastest growth will be publishing industries, travel arrangement services, museums, galleries, and parks, private and trades education, universities, oil and gas extraction, and warehousing and storage. I want to reflect on that. We're a natural resource sector region with manufacturing jobs, good family supporting jobs that have served our region for generations. And in the eyes of this government, our future in the next 10 years is publishing. How many publishing jobs are we going to replace the forest sector jobs? I don't know. How many warehousing and storage jobs are going to replace the mining sector jobs? Where is mining? Where is the forest sector jobs? Where is value added? Where are all of the very important real jobs that we depend on in the Cariboo riding in this outlook? It's not here. I don't know, travel arrangement systems? Is it because they expect everyone to move from British Columbia to Alberta? Is that what is on the horizon under the NDP, that their outlook for regions like mine is, well, folks, you may as well leave. We've got publishing and travel arrangement and warehousing and storage. Is that the expectation from this government, that we're all going to move? Is that the best under the NDP that we can do, is to say, hey, we'll line you up so that we can just ship you off to another part of the country? Not good enough. Not on our watch. Because we believe that better is possible. And I want to talk about that a little bit because, boy, I have been so fortunate over the last almost decade to meet so many extraordinary people, so many innovative people, so many entrepreneurial people, so many caring people who have such a strong vision of opportunities for the Cariboo. You know, whether it's, look, I had the opportunity, and I want to applaud the government on this, the approval of the Artemis Gold mine, net zero mine, like it's going to be a huge opportunity for the region. In fact, it's going to be a huge opportunity for British Columbia and Canada. When we can move these types of projects forward, it is good news for British Columbia. But there's some other projects that we're waiting on. There's permits that we're waiting on a Cisco mine project out in Wells. Another critically important project that creates good paying jobs for our region and is the right thing to do. And we encourage the government to be looking at that. I want to talk about investment in universities and colleges and making sure that we've got the right fit in our communities. I had the opportunity to meet with the research universities over the break weeks, and boy, they've got some exciting initiatives. They want to talk about how universities who have the capacity to mitigate wildfire, and that they were talking about the work that's being done at TRU right now, and that is a really good program. But why is all of the training happening in Hinton, British Columbia? Why can't we bring that to British Columbia? If we have these extraordinary universities and we have extraordinary people that are working on the ground, I say let's bring the training back into British Columbia. Let's look at that. How can we mesh TRU and the work that we're doing to provide the necessary training right here in British Columbia? I think that's a good place to start. Let's look at the logistics supply chain, and the research universities are looking at how you can look at highly developed databases and advanced technology for supply chains, and I think that's a great place to look at and invest in our universities and to see how we can move those exciting initiatives forward. Where how about the healthcare systems and health policies and the diagnostics, and how can we look to the universities to help solve some of the healthcare challenges that we're having right now? You know, they also talked about the need to support relationships with the Indo-Pacific region and how we can look at Singapore. And I think it's an important conversation that we have here in the legislature to look at that. You know, the BC Business Council has come forward to talk about encouraging businesses to invest and to look at competitiveness. And I think that is another very important document I'd like to bring forward, or at least turn the legislators' attention to. I think it's critically important because when we look at productivity and we look at how, from a competitive marketplace, we are losing, the strengths that we've had, and what that impact is on our economy is important, because skills gap incur an considerable cost to the economy, and if skills vacancies are not addressed. You know, taking the tech industry as an example, unfulfilled roles could lead to a GDP loss of $200 billion to $300 billion over the next decade, and a $5.2 billion to $8.4 billion loss in income tax for the province. Unmet skills demand in active listening, critical thinking, reading, comprehensive speaking, monitoring, and coordination has shown its economic cost. A recent report by the Conference Board of Canada showed that the unrealized economic value of these 6 skills of highest cost was a staggering amount of $25 million. In another report that has ABC focus, the Conference Board of Canada estimates that skills deficits have already cost BC up to $4.7 billion in foregone GDP and $616 million in tax revenues as a result of many British Columbians not having the right skills to contribute to the economy. So let's start listening to some of these folks. And I know my time is running out, so I want to bring the student's voice into this perspective. Yes, thank you, Minister. Well, I think this is a great opportunity. The Minister of Health is here. I wanted to share with him what the students have shared. It's a great idea and something that we should be looking at. So the students, the AMS Society and the GSS Society of UBC, which they're going to be here tomorrow, so I hope members put it in their calendars to take the time over the next couple days to listen to the students. They always bring thoughtful solutions to all of us, and I think it's critically important. But the AMS and GSS Society of UBC is recommending to create a third category under the BC Loan Forgiveness Program for those working in healthcare and social assistance. This will help mitigate the healthcare shortage by incentivizing more post-secondary and graduate students to pursue these career paths, thereby addressing the anticipated labor gap. So to the Minister of Health, I'd be happy to share their recommendation on to them. I think it's a great solution. I think the more opportunities, and I've heard this for many years, that we've got to start understanding the importance of training in our communities and making sure that we're retaining students in our communities, and that's why I've always been a very strong supporter of making sure that we have access to advanced and post-secondary education right across the province. Housing was another big one that all the student associations have brought forward as critical need. I know that there has been funds that are put forward in the budget, but students are saying, look, more opportunities to put that investment in place. I'll make a plug for our North Caribou Community Campus. Fantastic facility in our community. It's a partnership. We have the College of New Caledonia and the University of Northern British Columbia that have programs. They collaborate on programs in that facility. There's a couple of things we need. We desperately need the LPN program. Again, to the Minister of Health. That's a really critical, important one. It will certainly help the G.R. Baker Hospital and alleviate some of the challenges I began my comments off today. That is a very important one. And housing. I think housing, if we had student housing at the North Caribou Community College, I think the benefit of that would that we would be able to attract people to take, for example, the nursing program in our community. We know that we can get them into the hospital or into some of the care facilities and make their homes in the Caribou. Such a great place to raise a family and to live. And so that's why those programs are so critically important. So they talk about supporting housing. And I guess in closing, the students are here over the next few days to talk about the serious issues that they've seen on campus around the increase in sexualized violence and gender-based violence on campus. It's a significant issue. And steps have been taken on all sides of the house, and I think it's critically important. But one of the things that the pandemic has highlighted, and look, we can go back and forth on political ping pong on all sides of the house. But at the end of the day, we've got students that have been really impacted. And we've got to figure a way to come together and help find that support on campuses because it's critically important. And I know policies is one piece, but we're hearing directly from the students that, look, more supports, financial supports need to be on the ground because not all of the post-secondary institutions have the financial resources to ensure that they're adequately staffed and supported to make sure students have a safe place to be supported. Look, we can do better. We must do better. And I guess in closing, Honourable Speaker, I think we can do better. I have a very optimistic view, and that optimistic view comes from the privilege I've had to meet with students from across this province who, boy, they're gifted, they're talented, and we just need to give them a chance. And sometimes they're feeling a little hopeless right now. They're feeling the affordability crunches like everyone is, but I think we should be listening to them and making sure that our post-secondary sector is one that meets their needs, because at the end of the day, if we can find that pathway for students, we can help solve those workforce challenges that are right across the board. so that we can make sure that we've got people on the ground, whether it's helping in healthcare, social services, or our businesses, because we've got a great province in British Columbia, and we want to make sure that we continue to be the best that we can be. Thank you.